Hello, welcome. This is an in-depth tutorial course on automation testing using Cypress. Now, I will quickly take us through what we'll be testing, and we're going to use demoqa.com for our automation testing. We're going to look at first is we're going to look at TestBus, how we can actually automate something like this in real life scenario. We're going to do this with automation using Cypress, and this is check. After we finish the first one, we're going to look at the checkbox, also do the automation, carry out automation, radio button. You're going to learn how you can automate your radio button, using Cypress, and then we'll look at tables. With this, we're going to automate this. We'll fill this form, and then submit, and we'll also edit using Cypress. We're going to carry out all this automation and all that. This is here. We're going to do a lot of assertions here. If you look at this say double click me. Now I'm going to double click me, you see. So we're going to assert when we double click, we're going to assert, carry out assertion to make sure that the test we get is actually what we should be getting. Here say right click me. When we right click, this comes out. So we're going to carry out all this testing, and then here form, we're going to look at creation of form here. This also will go through at the end of the course. You will be able to automate any form that comes your way. And then we're going to do something here. Look at here, you see slide. We're still going to look at this progress bar. We're going to do all this automation too. And menu, look at this menu. All of this, we're going to automate all of this. This is going to really be an in-depth course at the end of the day. And apart from what we are saying on this course, I was still going to take you through another website, maybe through. I'm going to take us through an e-commerce site where we'll automate a website that is e-commerce. Actually, this course is going to be a real in-depth. So I will join that you subscribe, because the course will be coming in bits, so that when it comes, you'll be the first to know. And seriously, there are a lot you are going to benefit from this course. When this course is over, you'll be able to hit your hand on your chest and say, wow, I am a confirmed Cypress automation tester. Now, what we're going to go through, I haven't gone that, I'm going to take you through the the tools that we need. The first we're going to use is Node, because of course Cypress is a JavaScript. It's working with the DOM, and it's JavaScript, so we must have Node. We're going to have Node.js. Now, second is Git. We're going to download this, and then we're going to use Visual Studio Code. So these are the tools that we'll be using. We will need to download them now. So first and foremost, let me just take us around how we will download this. So the first is Node. You just look at Node.js download, and you click on this. You can see the website nodejs.org. Now I already have this installed in my system, so I'm not going to click this. Once you click it, it's from Windows. You click this, it will start downloading immediately. And then once it's done downloading, the installation is very simple. All you just need to do is to click next, and follow the default installation procedures. It's installed in your system. And if you are using Mac, you can install this. Now once that is done, the next we are going to look at Git download. Hit on Git download and look at the website git-scm.com, which is this one. And once you come here, all you have to do is from Windows. If you are using Mac, you click on this from Windows, and now if you are using Windows, you click here, and then you click here to download. Once you click on this place now, it's going to take you, it will start downloading, but I don't want to download, so I'm going to end this. I'm just going to delete it and clear it. So I already have it, and just as here, once you are done downloading, just click install and just follow the default procedure. Click next, and you are done. And then the last but not the least is VS Code. VS Code download. Now you can see the website here, code.visualstudio.com. So once you click it from Windows, you click here. I'm not going to click it because I already have it. You can see it here already. So I already have it. So once you click here to start downloading. For Mac, if you have this, if you have Mac, you can click here. And just as you've done with others, follow the default installation. They are not difficult, so I felt there's no need for me to start teaching you how to install because they are not difficult. Just keep clicking next until it's done. That's all. So who haven't installed them, I want to believe that you've installed them. We can now continue from there. So now that you have installed, finish carrying the installation, all I just want you to do first is to click, is to get a folder and a new folder that we'll be working with. I'll name this folder now Cypress test. So this is an empty folder I just created. So and this is the test folder we'll be working with. So what I want you to do is right click, and I'm using Windows 11. So if you are using Windows 11 with me, you just click show more option. If you are using Windows 10, this option will come up automatically. So you click on git bash. Just click on git bash, and you have just type in code space dot. This will automatically open this on your Visual Studio Code, and then press enter. So you can see that we're already on Visual Studio Code with that folder opening here. You can see it Cypress test. So we'll close this now. Now we're going to do some things here. I'll open the terminal. You don't need to follow me. Now the first thing we're going to do here is to um, get our our folder ready for the work. And because we are using a Cypress, all we just need to do is to, of course, we have to use npm for all that we do here. So first and foremost, I will use npm init. So as you can see here, it's asking us our package name. Of course, we want to get our package.json. So you can just click enter. Version, you can just keep clicking enter, or we just need to get, just keep clicking enter, keyword enter, auto enter. Now it's asking you, are you okay with everything? So yes, just type in yes. Okay, enter. And here we go. We've gotten our package.json. Now this is our package.json. Now, fine. We've gotten this package.json. Now the next thing we're going to do is to get our Cypress. And for us to get this Cypress, of course, we have to use npm install Cypress. For us to get this Cypress, of course, because we need the node module for us to work with Cypress. Without the node module, we're not going to do anything. So all we just need to do is to type in here npm I for install, then hyphen save hyphen dev space Cypress. Now I want us to work with version 9.70.0. This is the most stable version. The new 10 release version is still having some inches here and there. So please just use this version. And because I want us to use this version, that's why I'm using this at 9.70. Now you click enter. It's going to start installing depending on the how fast your system is. It will take some few minutes. Of course, this is window to install. And let's just wait some seconds and minutes for it to install. Okay, now it has finished installing, and you can see our node modules is already here. All that we need, all the dependencies that we need, unlike Selenium, where you have to, go get all your dependencies. Here all the dependencies have been given to us by Cypress. So now that the Cypress has been installed, all we now need to do is to actually bring it to life to see how it's going to look like. And for that to happen, look at our package.json. Here what you have to do, just let me close it. Now come to your package.json, delete this, we don't need this. Just follow me. And then you type in Cypress open and save. So what that means is that once I run this test here, my Cypress is going to open. So that's what we're going to do now. So we'll just say npm run test. I'm running this test here, and that will automatically trigger my Cypress to open. Now once I click enter, you're going to see that Cypress is going to build automatically here. Now you can see it's opening. Good. Look at it. Now a new folder has just been opened here. A new folder has just been opened here. Now in this folder, you see different subfolders. For the future, we have integration, plugins, and support. We're going to look at, as we're walking along the line, we'll be explaining all of this. Now all our code is actually going to be on this integration, and you can see they came up with some examples, and we're just going to run one of them. Let's see how it looks like. So on these examples that actually came with Cypress, I would like us to run this action.spec.js, and see how fast Cypress can be. So you can see it's already coming up. It's already automating the website. You can see how fast it is. Wow, the automation is complete. So once it's done, you can just come here and stop the automation, you know. So what we'll do now is, actually we don't need all of this. So we are going to just delete it, because we'll be carrying out our own automation. So you just delete it. Now this second one, I might just want to leave this action.spec.js, but I'll delete the remaining ones. So for me to do that, I'll first of all click on this and then hold your shift button down and click on the last. It's going to highlight all of this from the second to the last, and then right click, or you just hit your delete button on the keyboard. Move to recycle bin. Fine. So you can see we are now left with only action.spec.js. Now the last thing here is, I'm going to rename this to just example. Rename to just examples. Good. Enter. So everything has now been done. Now we're not going to be working with this. This is just the example that came with the Cypress. We'll be working with our own. So we'll start our own, but all that we'll be doing will be on this integration folder. Now, the good thing about Cypress is everything I'm doing here is automatically taking effect. Now let's look at it. You see, all that I've deleted has automatically taken effect. That is the beauty of Cypress. So in our next class now, we'll start, automating our own automation testing. I will enjoy you to subscribe to this channel, because this is really, really in-depth Cypress automation testing. And at the end of the day, you are going to enjoy it. So please subscribe and wait for the next class. Thank you. Hello, welcome to today's Cypress automation class. Today, we'll actually dive into our automation testing and see what we can, achieve today. Yesterday, we created this folder and brought in Cypress, installed, did all the installation. So if you haven't watched our video yesterday, I will enjoin you to, look at the link below and click on it and get to watch that video, because yesterday we installed all the things, the dependencies we need to actually carry out this automation, and I want you to just follow suit. So I don't want you to miss any of the courses. So please just watch the video and then come and follow us and watch this one. Now today we're going to start with this one. Let's just open this folder. Yesterday I told you one of the things we installed was Git, and that Git actually brought in this Git bash. So you just click on your Git bash and use code space dot enter. That is going to open our workspace, our work on Visual Studio Code. Okay, fine. This is actually what we did yesterday. Yesterday we looked at this integration and cleaned this example that came with the Cypress, and we just left only this one. Though we'll not be using this, but I just felt we should leave it. Now we're going to create our own test today. Yesterday we handled all of this. For you to get your terminal, just look at terminal here, click new terminal. Yesterday we handled all of this, so we won't be needing this package.json for now. So what we'll just do now is to create our first test. We just come here, integration, under integration, right click and click on new file. So you call it, let's call it first test.spec.js. Okay, now, but before we start anything, we are going to look at what we'll be treating today. The topic we'll be treating today is actually, we'll be looking at describe and it. in Cypress. Describe topic. Today's topic is describe, and it's in Cypress. Good. These are the two things we'll be looking at today. So, and I actually would like us to go to Cypress documentation to see what these two things are, because I just don't want you to take my words for it. So I will take you to Cypress documentation so that you just have a look at what it is. Cypress documentation. We'll just spend a few seconds to look at it. Look at docs.cypress.io. Now this is Cypress page. We'll come here and we'll just look at describe, yeah, bundles library. That's what we're looking at. Good. Now if you look at what Cypress is saying here, what they are telling us now, you see here, you said Mocha. What is it? Cypress has adopted Mocha's BDD syntax, and that is actually how Cypress works. Most of the syntax we'll be using in Cypress were actually adopted from Mocha JX. Mocha JS is a JavaScript test framework. So what Cypress is doing is that Cypress adopted most of the Mocha BDD syntax, and this describe is actually adopted from Mocha. Now, fine. Now this is what describe is all about. Just look at this. This is what I just want you to look at. We don't have to start reading everything, line by line. It said it provides a way to keep tests easier to read and organized. That is what describe does. Now, in the nutshell, describe in Cypress, when I start implementing, you understand better. Describe in Cypress is basically used to group our test cases. That's just it. We use it to group our test cases. That is, we can nest our test in group, you know as much as we want. We can just put, you can in Cypress, you can put describe can be nested inside describe, and then it takes two arguments. The first argument is a string explaining the name of the test group, while the second is a callback function. Now let me just put it into practice so that you see what I am saying. Now for us to start our test, all you just need to do is to say describe. Describe. This is what we're saying. Now this describe is what we're going to use to group everything we'll be doing in this Cypress. All our test cases will be embedded inside this describe. That's all. That's what describe does. It's used to group all that you are doing in Cypress. Now, and I said that it takes two arguments. The first argument is a string. That string explains the name of the test group. Now, what am I trying to say? This this course we'll be looking at UI automation. Of course, the first project we'll be working on is UI automation, because I told us, if you remember yesterday, I showed us that we'll be working on this demo QA, which is UI automation testing. This is not API automation testing. We'll still be looking at API testing later on, but for now we'll be looking at UI automation testing. That is to say that what we will be doing here is UI automation. So the first string is going to carry what we'll be doing, the group of the a kind of a heading. So we'll say UI automation. That is the first argument that it carries. Now the second, we're done with the first, we'll put comma. So we'll now put the next one is a callback function, and all we just need is to put a function. I'll be using arrow function, you know, a callback function. That's it. So everything we will now be doing, all our test cases that we'll be doing, is going to be written inside this describe. That's what describe does. So it groups your job. That's what describe does in Cypress. You get it? And the good thing about describe is that you can put as many test cases inside this describe, and describe too, you can also put another describe inside describe. Yes, it is very, very possible. I just copy that one. You can also do this. It's going to work. All you don't need to do is to give this another name, maybe possibly a subname, and all that. So it happens in Cypress. So that is actually what describe does in Cypress. Now, I told you that we're going to look at describe and it. Now let's take us back again to our documentation. It says that describe is a way to keep our text easier to read. Now, if you look at here, we also have it. The same thing too. The only difference between, let me click on it so that you see it. It's still the same thing. It provides a way to keep tests easier to read. Now, the only difference between it and describe, which I know you're going to be asking yourself, okay, if describe does makes us to get our text easier to read, and it does the same thing, why should we be using the two? Yes, we're going to be using the two. The difference is that as describe groups all our work in Cypress, it is used for individual test case. So every personal test cases that we'll be doing, will just be putting it. Shit, sorry about that. Okay, no, we'll just put it, and we'll put this. So our test case now, our first test case is going to be here. Now, just the way describe takes two arguments. The first is a string giving you the heading of the describe, and the second is a callback function. That is how it also does what it also does. It takes two arguments too. The first is a string explaining what you want to do, the particular test case you want to run. You have to explain it in your first argument. That is a string. The second is a callback function. You start writing your Cypress test. You know. So, but before we continue, there is a reference type that we're going to bring in here, which is actually going to help us to do our tests, write our tests in Cypress. If not, we'll be having issue. You saw what just happened when I wrote it. Something else came up. That was because the reference type has not come inside. Visual Studio Code is not recognizing what is happening. So but until I bring in the reference type and call it Cypress, that is when Cypress will now say, okay, I will start having all the Cypress syntax. So for you to get that, all you need to do is just type in reference type. Reference types equal Cypress. And then I close. That's it. So now let me do this again. And when you see it now, fine. Now it's taking everything is in order now. So this is actually what describe does, and this is what it does. So it just is used for individual test cases. Why describe is used to group all the test cases in your automation testing. So what that means is that if, for example, my first test, I want to carry my first test, I put it, write all my codes. Second test, another it. That is to say that I can have even up to 50 it in one describe, as much as I want, though it depends on you. It's not actually very advisable to have so much. How I do it is that I kind of instead I create another name altogether. I'll just come here and create, depending on what you are doing though. But what I'm trying to say here is that you can have so many it inside one describe. That is actually how it is done. And as I said earlier, we'll be having our first it here, and the first argument is going to be a string which describes what we'll be doing. Now we'll call it describe, because that is exactly what we're doing today. Describe and it in Cypress. That is the first argument. And remember, separate your argument with comma. The second comma. Now the next one is a callback function, just as we did above. Fine. Now the next, here now, we're going to have our Cypress code. Fine. And save. So all our Cypress code now, our first test we're going to carry out today will be written here, and everything will not be inside this it. Now tomorrow, our next class, all we just need to do is to carry on another it again. You put in another it, you know. Next, you can have so much it as you want, inside this describe. And as I said earlier, you can see how describe inside describe. As we move on this class, we'll be doing much work, and you're going to see how to use all this. Now, the first thing we'll be doing today is to look at our demo QA. What we are going to do is to just test the URL, and in order for us to do that, all you need to do is to come here, copy the URL. So the Cypress code for testing URL is called sci.visit. Now, as I click my dot, you see Cypress is giving me all of these simply because reference type is recognizing the Cypress. So it's now bringing all that is therein in site dot. Now, all we want is visit. Site of visit is here. Site of visit. That is if you want to go to any URL, that is the code to visit URL in Cypress. And you just put copy what you've put in the URL here. Of course, when you are done typing, when you are done giving your command, or when you are done typing in JavaScript, you put semicolon to show that that is the end. And now save. What I want to do now is to run this Cypress, to open my Cypress. I remember what we did yesterday. Let me see, refresh your memory. Here, this is how we are calling our Cypress. So once we run this test, this Cypress is going to open because we've already configured it in our package.json yesterday. So all I need to do is to say npm run test. So I'll wait and see the Cypress build. Fine. Now look at our test here. First test. Good. It's opening now. It's actually trying to locate the URL. You can see that it has located it and it's trying to open. Fine. Good one. Now it has opened. You can see how fast it is. This URL is actually a bit, heavy because of so many things embedded inside it, but you can see how fast it is. Now look at what I just explained to you. This is the describe. You see it, UI automation. That is what was written here. That's it here. This is the first argument, the string. UI automation is the heading. That is the heading is speaking here. Now this becomes the subheading, the it heading, which is here. Describe and it in Cypress, which is what you're having here. So you can see how it is structured, how Cypress is structures it. So this is the test now. This is all the test that we just run. All we do here is just to see, to be able to open the URL, and it has opened it successfully for us. The test has passed. Now, if you've done this with me, bravo. You have actually done your first test in Cypress. Congratulations. Once again, I will join you to hit like button, and if you have not, and if you've not subscribed, please subscribe because hello, welcome to Cypress automation testing. Today we'll be looking at locators in Cypress, and for quick, for us to move faster, I've been able to bring out what we'll be looking at today. So you can see the topic, Cypress locators. Now, for us to be able to, you know, assign a task to Cypress and say, hey, Cypress, go to social website and go to social page, carry out a particular function, we must be able to locate an element or a section from the website, and tell Cypress, okay, I want you to go to social place and go and carry out that particular function. If not, Cypress will not be able to do anything. So that is why locators is very, very important in Cypress. And once you are able to get your selectors, then you are good to go. That is just the honest truth. So as seen here, I wrote down here that Cypress only supports CSS selectors. Of course, that is just the honest truth. If you're familiar with Selenium, you understand that Selenium also supports XPath. But in Cypress, apart from CSS selector that yes, Selenium supports, Selenium also supports XPath. But in Cypress, Cypress only supports CSS selectors, and CSS selectors can be gotten in different ways, which I have listed below. So the first on our list here is by using Ivy. I'm going to go to our website, which we are going to go. But first and foremost, we have to open this our folder on our working environment, which is Visual Studio Code. I've already opened mine. You can just open yours in Visual Studio Code. If you watched our previous videos, you've seen how that can be done. So I don't just want to start wasting most of our time. Now, I did mention that we'll be using demo QA, which we used yesterday to actually see how we can visit website. And in our first video, I also said I will be using um, an e-commerce website. So this is the e-commerce website we'll be using to carry out our test, sourcedemo.com. So actually for today's test, this is the one we use is the demo QA. So I will be using both of them. But you know, the little challenge with demo QA is sometimes the server goes down. So that's one of the little challenge. So most often I'll be using these websites, sourcedemo.com. So today we're actually going to make use of this, and if need be, we'll still come here and make use of this. So today we'll be looking at locators, as I said earlier, and how we're going to do that is the first selector we'll be looking at is using ID. And how do you get your ID in Cypress? Now, let me take you to, I want to get, I want actually to carry out a test. I want to type John Doe here, using Cypress. That is a test. I want to make sure that this field, something input can enter this field. And for me to carry out this test, something has to be typed here in Cypress. And how do we do that? Now, I need to get a locator here. I need to locate this input field. And how you do that is to come here, get to inspect, and then use this your picker. Just come here, pick, and target this field, which is actually our target. Now, once you hit that, you see that here is going to highlight. Here is going to highlight. Now, what is happening here now is that everything on this input field is done here, is written here. So I said that you can get your selector via ID. You see it? This is ID. And if you look at here, luckily we have ID here. We have ID. So all we don't need to do is to use this ID. Highlighting it. You just highlight it, copy, and then use it. Now there's something we're going to get, crew parts. Sorry, crew parts. Crew parts for Firefox. If you're using Chrome, just look for crew parts for Chrome. And it's an extension that we'll be using to work. So this is it, crew parts. And then once you click, it's an extension. So once you just click it, it's going to come here. Here it's asking me to remove because I already have the extension. So once here on your own side, you'll be adding, and we're going to be using it. Now, come back to where we are working on our testing. So once you install it, you see it here. Look at it, crew parts. Now, for me to be able to get my Selenium to test it, I'm actually not using it to get it, but to test that what I've gotten is accurate. So I'll just use, now for you to use your ID, you use your hashtag, then whatsoever we have here, we have user-name, user-name, enter. You see that it highlighted only username. Now let me just remove this E so that you see it well. There's nothing like this. So if I put it back now, you see that E, because I've removed the E now, the highlight is gone. It's telling me that I have 0 element matching. There's nothing like this user-name. So if I bring this E back now, hit enter, it has highlighted the username, showing me 1 element matching. So this is a CSS selector using ID. So we're going to put this here now. So here now, we'll come and say that for us to get our ID, we use hash ID name. Sorry, ID name. Now, in this case, we have this. The second is using a class. And if you're using a class, for ID, we use this hashtag. Why for ID, you use dot. Now you go and check and look for a class. If it has here, it has a class. Now, we'll now look at this class. If you look at this class, you see that it has 2 different classes. One, input error, then space form input. You're not going to use the 2, you just take one. If you have 3 classes, just pick one. So we'll just use maybe the first one. Look at this first one. And then we'll come here and see if truly it is working. We'll see, I said here you use dot, then the class, enter. Fine. Now look at what happened here. It has highlighted 2 sections, 2 input field for me. What it's telling me here is that this input error is also found as a class in password. Now let's look at it. Let's confirm that. Let me click on password. You see, look at class, input error. Why ID? You see password. But ID for username is not password, but username. So this is actually where screw part becomes handy. It tells you how many element that is matching in whatsoever you are using, the selector you are using. So if the selector is unique, it's going to tell you that, hey, this selector is unique. It's just one element matching. And if it's not one element matching, it's more than one element matching, then you might have to leave that selector because you just want, now if I want to work on this and I'm using that class, I'm using class, invariably Cypress will be working with these two input field because this input error underscore error is actually going on two input fields. So ID here is our best option. So this is how you select class. But of course, there are a lot of classes that are unique. But unfortunately for this one is not unique. It has two element matching. Now the next is, so what do you do here? It's a dot class name. And here, what do we have? We have dot input error. That's what we're using. Now the next one here is using tag names. Now look at it. Here you have your tag name. The tag name here, we have the input as our tag name. So you can see that everything here is embedded inside this tag name input. You can see after the input you have space, you have ID, you have class, you have placeholder, and all that. All of these they are all embedded inside this tag name. So we can also use the tag name to get our selector. And how do we do that? If we're using tag name with ID, then we have to use the tag name hashtag and then the ID. What do I mean? Look at this input hashtag, then the ID. What is the ID? User hyphen name. Now look at what happens. Let me click enter. It goes back to select just this. Now there are some situations where you actually need to use all of this. For here, this is just, of course, this is just for um you know explanatory sake. But when we go into real life scenarios, there are situations where you just have to use this. This is what is available for you and you have to use it. So for here, now if this is for ID, if you're actually using for class, what happens? Your guess is as good as mine. You just say dot, what is our class name? Input. Let me just come here and copy it. Input error. Now look at it. It goes back. It has picked it again. So that is for tag name. Now the next on our list is, so what do we actually write here? I'm going to say tag name. Let me say for ID, you say tag name hash ID name. Why for class, we'll say tag name dot class name. So this is actually how you use your tag names. Now the next is, of course, you're going to practice all of this, you know. So, but I just have to give you the introduction. Now the next is using attributes. And for that to happen, all you just need to do is to say tag name, square bracket, you open your square bracket, and then you put your attribute value. What do I mean? Now let's come back here. Tag name, which is input. If you look at here, you see that our tag name here is input. And now what is attribute? Of course, here, class is an attribute, placeholder is an attribute, type is text is an attribute, you know. So we can just, let's assume there's no ID, there's no class. It happens, in some field. And what we have here, we just have input, placeholder, username. So we can say, okay, fine. Since there's no class, there's no ID, we use the tag name, open your square bracket, and then placeholder. Just the way you see it here, just copy everything. That is it. Because the instruction says tag name attribute equal to the value. What is the attribute here? The attribute is placeholder equal to the value. The value of this attribute, the value of the placeholder is username. So that just, you just put it and then you close your square bracket. What did I put? So sorry. Now enter. You see it has taken just this. So that is the format. So say here, let's write it down. Here you say tag name open your square bracket, attribute equal value. Then you close your square bracket. So that's it for using attributes. And the next on our list is traversing from parent to child. Now we're going to show that here too. How do you traverse from parent to child? Now, what do we mean by actually traversing from parent to child? Now, you see, if you look at this, you see that this input is actually a child of this div, which is a child of this form. So we can just move, what we're saying is move, that is to say that form is a parent of this input. So for us to transverse from parent to child, all we just need to do is to use their tag names. That's all. So now look at what happened here. What is the parent tag name? The parent tag name is form. So I put form. And then I'll give a space. You give a space to the child tag name. What is the child tag name here? Input, which we've been working with. So I'll put input. Now look at what happens. It has highlighted everything that has to do with this input value. Remember that this input value carries all of this. Oh, sorry, this, yes, of course, which is the tag name for the child, carries all of this. So you can actually transverse from parent to child in Cypress. Now, I wouldn't want you to be more confused. We will actually get our hands dirty, but I just wanted to get the introduction that, see, these things, this is how these things are done. When we start working with them, you get a better understanding of how they are done. So for this, we're going to say that you use your tag names. Now the next is contains. Now for this contain, let's use this demo QA for better understanding. Now if you come here and you pick this element here, I actually want to click on this. So if you look at it, you see that you have h5 then element. Now, and I want to pick this, I want to click on this event, this element. All I need to do is to say okay. Now if you actually look at it, you see that unlike here where we have IDs, unlike here where we have ID, we have class, we have placeholder, you know, look at this. There's nothing like that here. So if we want to click on this section, what are we going to do? Supposing that, you know, all we've learned so far is using class, using IDs, you know, and all that. And we come here only for us to see H5 element. What are we going to do? In this place, you just use contains. That is actually what we do here. You just use the test. Just use the test available to you. And the test here is element. So all you need to do is to test Cypress to go to the website and find a test that contains element. Then click on it if you want to click on it. That's all. So for contains, all you just need to do is to use the test. Use the test. Now for child selector, I don't want to treat this now because it will be more it will be more complicated. And as we move forward, there are some other things that I want us to go through first before we look at child selector. So let's just go through all of this for now. Okay, so what we'll now be doing is to start get our hands dirty, you know, as we have learned. Now on the website, okay, we can just use this one now. I just hope that the server will run. Now if you look at this website, I want us to click on this, and let me go back. First, we're going to click on this, and then second, we'll click on this test box, and then we'll type in an input here. This is our task today. We'll type in John Doe here. Now let's go carry on the task. So first, we're going to click here. And how do we do that? We've already learned that we're going to use contains because there's no class, there's no ID. So all I just need to do is to use my pick and pick here. So I already have my element as test. So I'll come here. Of course, we're linking to the website. So I'll come here and say sci dot contains. You see it's already showing. So I'll click enter. And what am I containing elements? Now, what do I want to happen? What action do I want? I want it to be clicked. I want it to be clicked. And that's all. Fine. I'll save. Now, the next action, after I have clicked here, the next action is that I want this text box to be clicked. So I will also take my picker and come here. Now have a span and I have a class of tests. But let's see if I use this class of tests, is it going to be unique? Let's use our group path class of test dot test. Wow, you see that it's not unique. It's not a single element. You see, we have 33 elements matching, so we can use it. So in that case, we're going to use contain. But if you look at it now, if you go through, you see that the only thing containing test box here is just this field. So we're going to use contain again. So I'll copy it. I'll come here. And okay, there's something I want to show you now. Now I want to duplicate this. For me to do that, I'll hold my shift and my alternate key down and then press the arrow down. That's just it. And then you hold your shift, alternate, then arrow down to drop it. So I'll paste this and save. So what I've just done here is that I've told Cypress, go find what is containing element, click. Go find what is containing this, click. Now the next we're going to do is having clicked this, we'll come to this page. Now let's go and pick again. What should we be looking at here? We're going to use ID because this ID is unique. If you look at it here, you use your group path, hashtag, username. We've already done that before. It's unique. So I'm going to come here now and say, now I'm not using contain. What I'm using now is sci.get because I want it to go and get something from me. So get what? An ID. And this is it. Hash that. Now what do I want Cypress to do? I want you to type. I'm not clicking. I'm typing. And what do I want to type? I want to type in John Doe. And that's it. Something is not right. Oh, sorry. I didn't put this in single quotation mark. Fine. Now you can use double if you want, but I prefer using single quotation mark. So now we'll save and come to terminal. Let's run our test. npm run test. Okay, so this is our test. We're going to run it now. I just hope that the server is up and running. Okay, you can see the fine. Now you can see how fast that is. Do you see what just happened? It has done all the clicking and then type in John Doe. Look at it, John Doe. I wasn't the one who typed it. Cypress did that, you know. So that is actually the beauty of using Cypress to do your automation. And if you've done this, bravo. You've actually done a huge work today. Congratulations and happy testing. Thank you. See you in the next class. Hello. Welcome to today's Cypress automation testing. So today we'll be diving straight to form automation. We're going to be looking at how to actually automate your form with Cypress. So let's go straight to our work environment. You can just open your folder with VS Code. I've already opened mine. So in our last class, we actually carried out this automation. So today now we'll be looking at form automation with Cypress. Now what we're going to do, last class I taught you how to use your shift alternate key down to actually duplicate your work. So we're going to duplicate the shift alternate, then you arrow down button You just press your arrow down button, it comes out. So we're going to remove this, all of this. We're deleting all of this, and we'll change this now to form automation with Cypress. So this actually is what we'll be looking at today. Now, but before we move on, let me save. Now, before we move on, I would like to talk about comments in JavaScript. So if I'll ask, what is comment in programming? Comment is an explanation of what your code is all about in your source code. Nothing more to that. So if you are writing codes and you just want to kind of give an explanation of what your code is all about inside your source code, you have to put that in comment so that computer will understand that, hey, I am not, this is not part of my code. I'm not going to run all of this. If you look at this now, this is an example of comment. And in JavaScript, you use your comment by double slash. Once you put double slash, everything I type in here, you can see that it's not actually showing, this color here, showing that it is not live. The code is not recognizing it as something that is going to run. Yes, it's embedded inside the source code, but it will not be run. Now let me just remove this. Let me remove this Cypress code, for instance. Let me remove the comment. You can see that it has changed color. Now it is now showing me, JavaScript is telling me, hey, this is an error. I don't understand what you're trying to say. What do you want to say here? You can see it. But because it's comment, once it's put it, the error goes off. So once I'm running this code now, this code will not be run. It's not going to be run because it is comment. So that's just comment. You use comment to actually explain something while you are coding. So that's just it. So I'm going to remove it because it is not actually necessary here. Okay, then we are going to look at something again. You know, here, when you are writing codes, one of the things you learn in programming is to avoid repetitions. If you look at here now, you see that I have just repeated this URL. I said site.visit here, and I'm repeating site.visit here. Yes, for now we are going to do it, but as we move on in this course, we're going to look at some hooks that will help us to actually refactor this code, and we will not be reusing this URL. We're just going to use it once on this page, and that will be all. Every other area will just be moving from that. But for now, we haven't gotten to that stage. So for now, we'll just be repeating it, at the moment. So having gotten that, let's move on to our form automation. Okay, we'll still be working with this Adome QA, for now. Let's hope that the server will not be giving us issues. So look at the form we'll be working on, this text box. Now let's just actually look at it first, and then go and automate it. Let's say full name, John Doe, email address, johndoe@gmail.com, and current address, let's say number 12, John Doe Street, Lagos. Fine. And permanent address, let's repeat this. Good. Now look at what happens when you submit. And when you submit, you see all the information that you have just entered here. We're going to see it. It shows that you've gotten a successful submission. So this is exactly what we're going to, replicate now. So all of this information, we're going to replicate them via automation. So let's go and do that. Let me refresh this. So the first thing we'll be doing here now is, I have to go back. The first thing we'll be doing here now is we'll have to start from this page, but this is the page this is our landing page. So we have to start from this page, and we've already automated this before. So we just have to look at that. So the first thing here is to say we need to get this element. And how do we get the element? We need to get this element here. We need to click here. And how do we do that? We say sci.contain. We already have it, so no need of repeating it. I can just copy it here. We already have it. To drop it here. Already did it. So if you haven't actually watched this course, I will enjoin you to go back and just rewatch this course so that you can follow suit. So this will actually be able to bring us to this place and click on this element. Now, once we get here, we need to click on the text box, and I think we've also done that. You can see side or contain text box, click. Good. So we'll also bring it down. And this will actually be able to come here and click on this. Now we've gotten to this stage. What we now need to do is to come here, okay, and get our username. Now, how do we get our username? You can see that we need to fill this form here. So look at the form field. The first is form field, and the second is email. The next is current address, permanent address, and then you submit. But before we move on, in our last class, actually, we talked about this, one of our last classes, okay? We talked about locators. Let me bring it up. Different ways to get locators. We talked about that you can get your locators through ID, through class name, through tag names, and all that. So I would like us to just use some of all these processes in getting our locators. So here, all we need to do, you right click, of course, inspect. You already know this. We've done this before. You come to your pick tools and pick this. This is where we want to actually carry out. And you see we have the ID here. ID is username, so we're going to use this username. If you look at this now, you see that this one is not unique. How do I know? Because we've done that before. We've done that before, and we tried using CrewPath to see if it's unique, which is our class. And we found that it's not unique because it's not single. Let's look at it. ChromePath dot, being class, you use dot, then we put it. You see we have 4 elements. Look at, it's highlighting 4 of the elements. So this is not unique. So we're going to look at username. So come here and say hashtag. For ID you use hashtag. Why for class you use dot? Hashtag and username. Fine. It's taking just 1 element, so it's unique. So we're using the ID, and I think we've already done that in our first class, in this class here. So we'll just copy it and paste. I'm just repeating it, Good. That has been done. Now the next, we'll pick the next, and what do we use here? The class can still not be used here because the class is not unique. It's sharing the same class with that of the full name. So, but if you look at the ID, you see that ID is unique. ID is user email. So we're going to do that. Confirm that here. You see it's highlighted 1 element matching. So we're going to use user email. Now all I just need to do here is to duplicate. That's all. And I change this now to user email. And then come here. I want to type the email, and our email is johndoe@gmail.com. That's the email, and save. Now the next is current address. So I'll come here and pick. Now when you look at this, you see that we also have an ID here. So I'm going to pick the ID and confirm if it's unique. Good. 1 element matching. You can see it has highlighted it. So that is what we're going to use here. So I duplicate and remove this. And then we'll be using the address. We'll say number 12. Sorry. John Doe Street, Lagos. Now save. So that has been taken care of. Now the next one is we'll also pick here. Here it said permanent address. That is the ID, permanent address. So we'll pick that. And let's confirm here. You can see that 1 element matching and permanent address has been highlighted. So we're going to use that. Here now we'll duplicate, shift control key down, arrow key down, and in this place we'll change it to permanent address. This is going to remain as it is because we just want to repeat the same address. So save. Now the last is going to be click. Now I haven't entered all the information. You now come here to submit, and let's pick on submit button. And when you look at this, you see that you can see that we have an ID submit. Yes. Then we have a class BTN primary. Let's see if this class of BTN primary is actually unique. I think it should be because that's the only button on this page. There's not that button on this page. So let's look at it. Dot BTN primary. Good. One element match. You can see that it has highlighted it. So this is how you use your class. All this while we've been using IDs because ID is what is available for us to use. So but on this one now we're going to use class. So we'll just come here and say sci.get. Then we'll put it. This is what we want. And then what do we want Cypress to do? Click. This time around we are not typing. So click. So having done that, we'll just save. And now we can run our Cypress to see what it will give us. New terminal, npm run test. Okay, so this is actually our test. Actually, this example, I feel it is of no use. So let's just remove it. Let's remove it. In our first class, this example came with Cypress, so we just felt let's leave it, but it's actually kind of disturbing. So let's remove it. We don't even need it for anything. Let's remove it. Good. So you can see that it has just taken effect immediately here. So let's run our test by just clicking this. Good. Now this post, by the way, if you were with me on our last class, I talked about the server, this website, the server actually giving issue because this is free and a lot of persons are using this website. Now, if you look at it here, it's saying, look at the error, type error, setup is not exemption, and here it said the following error originate from your application code, not from Cypress. Once you have this issue, as you are running your test, on your own local machine, just know that you're having server error. So what we're going to do is that we're going to come here and, but if you look at this one, you see that it ran this one successfully, you know. So it was now running the second one when the server, had issues and crashed. So we're going to stop it. So what you just do, if you are having this issue on your local machine, just kind of pause for like 30 seconds, a minute, and rerun it again. Invariably, it's going to pass. Why that is going on, why we are waiting, I've already stopped it. So while we're waiting, there's something I would like us to look into again. When I started this, we looked about comments in programming. Now in Cypress, if you look at this now, in our first class, we talked about this it. Yes, I said that inside your describe, you can have multiple its on it, and that's exactly what you see here. You see that we now have two its. Now, when you saw, as it was running, you saw that it first of all ran this one. After running this one passed. You saw it marked good and green. Actually, it was from here that server crashed. So if I am working on this particular, now I am working on this particular section. We've gone through this and this passed. And being that I'm working here, I don't want the Cypress to run this test. I don't want Cypress to run this test for me because that was exactly what happened. It has to run all the tests, all the its inside the describe, you know. So it's going to run this one first. After that, sequentially, it will run to the next it. After running the next it, it will run to the next it, and until there's no that it again. So, but if I want just only the one that I am working on, I want Cypress to run only the one I am running. All you just need to do is to come to the it and press and enter dot only and save. So this dot only is Mocha syntax. In our first class, I think we talked about Mocha syntax. So this dot only, which is being used by Cypress, this dot only will now automatically tell Cypress, hey, I don't want to run any other test. I just want to run only this particular it. So Cypress is just going to run only this one for us. So let's do that again now and see what happens. We can just come here and click. So you can now see that that first one didn't run. is just straight now running on the phone. We're still having server issue. We're still having server issue. So I'm still going to pause, a bit. Let me just pause this video. So what I'm going to do now is to close this, stop this from running, and then close this. And how do you close it? You just Control C. It has closed. So having closed that, we'll just have to rerun it all over again. So I'll say npm run test. You click. Good. Now it has actually passed, but you can see the server is still having issues. But this time around, it was able to pass through, to go through. So before we weren't able to go through. Now you just have to forgive me. I'm using free website. Of course, this is not a paid course. This is a free course on YouTube, and I just felt well we can use a free testing website. If that this course is paid, I'll have to spend money to launch a website that we'll be using for testing. So this website is used by a lot of persons, and actually that is crashing the server. So while you are carrying on your own test, you might still be having these little issues, but that shouldn't stop you from learning what you have to learn. That is just it. So this is it. You've done this, and you can now see that as we did on our first, when we actually started it, you saw all the form that we entered, the field. As we entered them, everything on clicking submit, everything showed here. Here full name, we have John Doe, email johndoe@gmail.com, and all that. So if you've done this and you've gotten this to this level, bravo. You've actually been able to automate form in Cypress. Thank you and happy testing. See you in our next class. And I will appeal with you, if you have still haven't joined, subscribe to this channel, please. What are you waiting for? Subscribe and hit the like button. Thank you and happy testing. Hello, welcome to Code Ethics. Today we'll be continuing our Cypress automation class, and we'll be looking at checkboxes in Cypress. So we'll actually be looking at how to automate checkboxes in Cypress. So quickly, let me give you a hint of what we'll be doing today. Of course, we'll still continue with our demo QA. So we'll go to element checkbox. You see checkbox. So this is what we'll be automating today. In our last class, we actually handled this. So today we'll be looking at checkbox in Cypress. So what is our job here? Our job is actually to automate these checkboxes to see if they can click. You can see when you click here, all of these are shown. Now, there are nested checkboxes here. If you click here now, you see all these are going to come up, and each of these also have things inside them. They have checkboxes inside them again, so you can see all this. So what we're going to do is, we're not just going to come here and just check this and say, hey, we can handle this. No, 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 no. What we're going to do is we're going to look at, maybe just come here, come to desktop, and then click either of these. Yes, that is going to be our target, and I bet you that if you can handle this, then you can handle any checkbox on any website. That's your next truth. So because this website is actually for practice, and the practice is not something that you just come in and walk your ways around easily and go. This website was designed with the mindset of making your hands dirty, as it should be in the industry. And actually this checkbox will expose us to a lot of things, that a lot of new things. So I will just advise you to sit tight and follow the class through. So quickly, we'll go and open our work environment. So we'll just come here, right click and open with code. Now, if you don't see this, if you are not seeing this, please just, if you right click and for one reason or the other, you are not seeing this. Of course, if you followed our first class, then please just open from here, then you can just use code space dot enter, and that will automatically open your work. So the work is already open. So today now, as I said, we'll be looking at checkbox in Cypress. So what we're going to do is to just highlight this and shift alternate arrow key down, that is going to duplicate it for me. So I don't need all of this. I don't need all of this for now. So let's just delete this. Of course, we'll still be leaving this, and let's put our title here. Checkbox, sorry, checkbox is in Cypress. Okay, save. Okay, so now let's go out there and get our hands dirty. So the first thing we're going to do here is, let's start from the home page. The first thing we're going to do here is to click this element. We've always been doing that. So it's all over here, site.contains.element click. So we'll just copy this. I feel no need of doing that because we've been doing it all along. And, so you save. Now the next thing we're going to do is, having clicked here, we'll now come and click checkbox. In our last meeting, we click this. So it's still the same process, you right click, go to inspect, and your pick tool will come here and pick. So you see we have a container here, checkbox. So it's exactly the same process that we went through to get this one. So let's just follow the same process. We'll actually use a container which contains checkbox. So in this case, we'll just copy this and paste it here. But here, instead of putting test box, we'll just come here and copy this. This is actually what we want. Checkbox. Please make sure that you're copying the right thing. Good. You save. So now look at what will happen now. Once this is clicked, the next target is going to come here and look for this, which is checkbox, and then click on it. And now once we get here, we now want to expand this. We want to expand this because remember that our target is to click expand this, then expand desktop, and then check this command. That is our target. So we want to expand this actually. And how are we going to do that? All we need to do is to use our pick tool again to check. Now when you look at this closely, you see that we have a class. And here we have two classes, of course. The first class is, let me remove this highlight here. The first class is rct-icon. While the second class is, of course, classes are separated with a space. You can see there's a space here. So the second class is rct-icon-expand-close. And if you look again, you see that we don't have ID. So we might not have to work with this class. Let's look at the first class first and see if it's unique for us to work with. And here we're going to look for our group paths. We have 5 elements highlighted and we can use this. So we'll go for the second one, the second class. So let's go for this. Remember, because it's a class, we use dots. Good. One element highlighting, and which is this. So we are just going to use this. So this will now click on this toggle here to toggle it. So what we'll now have to do is to say sci.get, and this is what it should be getting for us. And what do we want to do? We want to click. So that's it. Now, having gotten this, let's just save. Now, having clicked here, our next is to click here again. So we pick and then come here and select. Now, look at this closely. We are still having the same class again. Now, when you look at it, you see the class rct-icon-expand-close. Now, let's use it again. Dot 3-element matching. So now that we have 3-element matching, and invariably this is not unique, what are we going to do? And when you look at it, look closely here, you see that there's actually nothing left for us to work with again. So what I'm going to do in this case, that is going to take us to in JavaScript what is called array. Now let's look at it. I'll take you straight to the documentation so that you don't have to take my word for it, and I will explain to you how array is being used in JavaScript. So let's quickly jump to our documentation. Let's say array in JavaScript. Fine, array in JavaScript. Just click it. And this is not what we're looking for. We'll go to the documentation here. This is documentation developer.mozilla.org. So we'll just click this. Fine. This is exactly what we want. Now, there's something I want you to look at. Array, what it does is that it enables storing a collection of multiple items under a single variable name. Yes, I know you are confused, but let me copy this so that I'll bring it here where we can, you know, make justice to it. So let's put it here and say an array. Yeah, does all of this. Now, an array enables storing a collection of multiple items under a single variable name. What are we actually trying to say? What does that mean? Let's look at an example. Just scroll down the documentation. Come here, you have an example. Exactly. Now, they said here, let me put this. Good. Fine. An array enables storing a collection of multiple items. Collection of multiple items. We have apple, we have banana, collection of multiple items under a single variable name. This is a single variable name, a variable name of fruits. In JavaScript, there are two ways you declare your variable. Either you use const or you use let. Now, if you are using const, it means that is a constant. You are not intending to use that variable elsewhere. But if you are using if you are using let to declare a variable, then that variable can be used in other places. So if you want to declare a variable and you know that you're not going to use it elsewhere, you can just use const. So now a variable has been declared here, and the variable name here is fruit, which is as defined here. An array enables the storing of collection of multiple items, which we are having here, under a single variable name. So this is the single variable name fruit. Now under this fruit, you now have an array of different fruits. You have apple, you have banana, you have mango, you have orange, you have strawberry, you have pear, name it. All different type of fruits that possibly you want to list can now come in as an array under this variable fruit. Now you can have an array of name and then have different names. You can have John, you can have James, you can have Michael, you can have Elizabeth under the array of names. So that is just all what array does. Array is enable storing a collection of multiple items under a single variable name. And then the next thing we're going to look at here is that array are zero index. Now I explain what that means. Now, I just said that arrays are zero index. What do I mean? Ordinarily, if I am to count this array here, this is number 1, this is number 2. But arrays don't count that way. Arrays start their counting from 0. So when you are actually indexing this array, you start from 0. This is 0. So the apple is on 0 index, while banana is on 1 index. So if I want to fetch banana now, all I just have to do put on the array is 1 and banana will be fetched. If I want to fetch apple, all I have to put in the array is 0 and apple will be fetched. Arrays are 0 index. So let me possibly expatiate it. Let me just bring it here and let me expand this. Now this is our array, and for simplicity's sake, let me add more arrays. We have mango, we have orange, we have strawberry. Of course, all these are fruits. Then we have pear. Now let's assume we'll remove this. Now this is our array. Now let's say now that we have an array of fruits which carries all of these fruits, in our database, and we want to count it. Now when we say that array is 0 index, look at what we mean. Here is seen as 0. Here is 1. Here is 2. Here is 3. Here is 4. And here is 5. Now ordinarily we have 6 items here if you are counting from your normal counting way 1 2 3 4 5 6. But arrays, because they are 0 index, they start their counting from 0. Take note of that. Now what we're going to do here, coming back to what we have here. Now, having seen this, all we now have to do is to say, okay, we have three arrays here, and considering the fact that arrays are zero index, we'll now tell Cypress, hey, come fetch me. Click on the zeroth index of the three arrays that we have here. That's exactly what we're going to do. Because there's no other way we can get this from here. You know, I told you earlier that this demo QA, you know, at the end of the day, actually it starts, gradually, but as you are moving, you start advancing gradually. And that is actually the idea of this website, so that you grow as you practice. So let's go to our Cypress and get that code, or rather VS Code. Now we have sci.get. Okay, we still need to copy this. Now, because we want the zeroth index, in Cypress we have what we call EQ, which is equal. You can see it has already highlighted equal. I want it to equal an index, which I want this an array of zero index. And that's exactly what has happened here. Now we have three arrays here. This is first, second, third, and which is the 0, 1, 2. So if I come here now and put 2 here, it's going to come and click on this download. If I come here and put 1, it's going to come and click on documents. But we want our task is to actually click on desktop. So that is why I'm putting 0. So instead of clicking first, the first thing I want it is equal EQ equals 0. And then when you get fetch that, click. That's all. So I would like us to run this code at this stage. Though we are not done. I'd like us to run this code at this stage and see if what we've done so far is okay. So we'll just go to our terminal and npm run test. Now, before we click here, we talked about, I think in our last class or so, we talked about dot only. So I will actually want to run only this test. But before then, before then, I think in our last class we're having errors, and I want us to go and deal with that error. And we're having this uncut exception error, and that error was actually coming from the website. So we'll have to go and handle. Let me just run only this one. This is our last class. So I will click on dot only. So let's come here and run, so that we can get that error and find a way to. There's a way we can handle that error, so that we'll stop getting that error and focus on our task. So I just paused this video. I actually have to run it. I ran this code. Sorry about that. I actually had to, run the code several times to be able to get this error. So now we're having this error. When this error comes up like this, there's a way you have this uncut expression. So there's a way we can handle it by actually putting it off on Cypress. Now, when you look at this lemon, let's just go through the documentation so that you actually learn by working with documentation. Now, look at what they say. You can turn off this behavior globally. And how do you do that? You go to the catalog event. Now, this is actually where you turn it, the code to turn off the uncut exception error. So we're going to copy this code and paste it on our describe. That is going to off we'll paste it here. Good. So whenever this error comes up again, being that we've already asked Cypress to return it false and not true, we're not going to see that error again. So you can see the code is already running, and good. You can see the code is not, the error is not found. Okay, so let's go back to we can now close this. Let's go back to our VS Code, and we can remove this only here, dot only, and put it here because this is actually what we want to test. First, I want to close this. So now I save. I can now come here and click on the test to run. So let's see what happens, how far we've gone with our code. Good. Now you can see that it has actually found this and then expand it for us. So our next target now is to click on this command. And then once you click it, it's checked. And we're going to have our confirmation here that command, you have selected command. And that's just it. So let's go fix that. So the next question now is how do we get our command? We'll go to our website and then pick, haven't clicked this now, we need this. Now we'll use our pick tool again and then click select on this. We have this class title and command. Let's see this class. Invariably, it's not going to be unique. We have 6 elements. So instead, let's just use contain. Let's use contain. So we're going to come here and say side.contains. And what are we looking for? We're looking for command. And what do we want? Click on it. And that's it. So let me stop here because once I save, it automatically start running. Let me stop it. So I'll just save here now and let's run it and see. Good. Our test has passed. So now you can now see that everything just worked smoothly. Now it has come here, clicked on the command, and the checkbox is checked, and we have a confirmation that command has been selected. That is just it. And if you've done this with me, bravo. Now today you see that we are actually, growing in automation testing. Today you've been able to learn outside what we are doing. We've been able to learn about array, and then we've actually been able to, stop this uncut exception that we're having, the error we're having here from the website. So actually, this class, if you are patient with me, you are going to grow because I have a lot. This class is actually going to be very long, and all we just need to do is patient because it's actually not easy, making this video and uploading this video and all that. So just be a little bit patient with me, but grow with me. And at the end of the day, you're going to hit your hand on your chest and say, wow, I am a software quality assurance. So if you've done this with me, thank you. Bravo. You've done a great work today. Happy testing. And please, I want to appeal if you haven't liked this video, please just hit that like button and subscribe so that you'll be updated once new video comes in. Thank you very much. Hello. Today we'll be looking at upgrading to version 10.3. Yes, I did earlier say that when the time comes for us to upgrade, we will actually upgrade when we're starting the video on video 1. And I felt it is time now for us to upgrade. So I just want us to look at how we can upgrade to version 10.3. The fact is that at that initial stage, when the new version 10 came up, there were a lot of issues coming up because it was not stable. But Cypress has recently upgraded to version, updated it to 10.3, and that 10.3 seems to be a bit more stable than the 10.1 and 10.2. So at this stage, I will just prefer that we move on with the new trend. And again, I want to make this for clarity's sake. If this video is actually going to be a bit simple because our project is not complex at the moment, we haven't gone far, we are still at the elementary level. So upgrading to version 10.3 is not going to be difficult for us. But if you have a project that is already complex, this video in a per se might not actually be for that because there are a lot of dependency, there are a lot of things that has to be changed, which I am not going to touch here because on our end, those things are not actually for now not in our project. Hopefully I'm going to do another video on that issue where if for those who have huge projects, how to upgrade their version 9.7 to 10, and I'll show you all that you need to change alongside as you are doing the upgrade. But for now, I want us to stick to this course so that we can be faster in this our project. So the first thing I want you to do, which I've already done this, just for times to save time, I've just copied this. You copy and duplicate, you just paste, you have copy version of it. So now I'm going to rename it. Let's just rename it to 2, our test 2. So we'll still be working with this one. Now we have a backup of it. This Cypress test 2 will still remain on version 9.7, while this is what we are now going to start working on. So as usual, you just have to open with Visual Studio Code. Okay, this is our tests as it has always been, and this is what we've done so far. So usually here you have your integration. Now I'm going to close this. We don't need this at the moment. Now for us to upgrade, all you have to do is to come to this package.json, and now look at the version. If you look at these dependencies, all we have here now is Cypress. You see the version 9.7.0. What we want to upgrade to is 10.3.0. Now I haven't changed it like that. All you just need to do is save, Control S. Now you saved it, but that is not enough. You come to terminal, you go to a new terminal, and then you enter npm install and hit enter. So what will now happen is this version 10.3 is now going to be installed. So that is exactly what we are doing here. And let's just wait for it to, you can see it's already installing, to install. Okay, it has finished installing. So all I now need to do is to run it. Npm run test. Now it will start running on the version 10.3, no longer the 9.7. And of course, everything on the interface changed. Everything about it just changed. Good. Now this is the new interface. Now it's asking us continue to Cypress 10. Yes, we want to continue. Just click here. Good. Now there are a lot of migration that actually Cypress did here, but they've made in such a way that they help us to do the migration. So all you just need to do is to click rename this specs for me. Now we're migrating all, look at the changes they're making here. You can see initially our file name is .spec.js, but now they've changed it from file name.sci.js. So that is one. Now if you look at the first one here, the first change they made here is integration. Look at it. Yeah, you see usually it is on this folder integration that we have our all our tests, but this new version has changed it. They now changed it Cypress/integration, which is integration. That integration is now being changed to E to E, and then the name change is now being changed from spec to sci. Look at the name, look at it, spec. Now at the end, once we migrate, now it will change to sci. So these are just the what they are saying here. So we're going to say yes, rename it for us. It has just been renamed. Now the next one is rename the Cypress support file. Now the support file is actually support/index. Now they are changing it from index.js to e2e.js. Yes, rename it for us. Look at it here. So we have this support/index.js is changing to this. For now, we don't have anything on our Cypress.json, but of course, in due time, we're going to. So if we already have that, they're going to change it here to config.js and no longer Cypress.json. It's now changed to cypress.config.js. So we're going to migrate. So all you just need to do is to just follow click on the button, and it has chosen. You can choose anyone. For me, I use Edge. These are the two my preference: Edge or Electron for my Cypress testing. So I prefer using Edge. You can use, if you have Chrome, you can, if your Chrome is installed, you can use Chrome, you can use Firefox, whichever. So I'm using Edge. Okay, now this is our test, first test. So we're going to run it and see what happens. Okay, good. The test has actually run and is a pass. You see, it's checked, showing you that it passed. Now I want to show you something here. There's something that actually failed, even if in a version 9% it has been failing. I just want to clarify that that actually is an ad. This section is an ad. Look at the ad here. It's an ad that is popping up. This section is an ad that is popping up. You know why the test is running. So it has actually been failing. That has nothing to do with our test. So I just want to clarify that. So if you look at our test now, it is it has passed. You see, it's checked good. So remember that this website is a commercial website or is a public website, sorry, and so many persons are using it. It's a free, website for everybody. So there are a lot of ads on it. So eventually, as the test is running, some of the ads are failing. Okay, now I want to run all the tests. Remember that we use dot only. Okay, so let's go back now to our file. You see now that integration has changed. The folder integration has changed to E2E. So our test remains first test. So now we can now close this. We no longer need this. We have now migrated. We've upgraded now to 10.3. So that is it. And let's change this dot only. Let's remove it so that Cypress can now run all the tests. So I'll just saved. Good. Automatically is running the test now. So let's just see what happens. You can see that it has finished the first one. It's running the second one now. Good. Everything is just going as it should be. Fine. The second one is done. The third one is going. And that's it. The whole tests have all passed. So that's just it. This is version 10. If you've watched this video to the end, bravo. You just migrated to version 10.3. And from now onward, we'll now be using this version 10.3 to carry out our test. Thank you very much and happy testing. Once again, I'll adjourn you to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't so that you'll be getting updates once the new video comes up. Thank you and happy testing.